Hey, this is Eric Westrich with Aquilius Innovation Hub, and we're excited to have Carlos Gaitan, who's the CEO and co-founder of Benchmark Labs. Carlos, welcome.
Hi, Eric. Thank you so much for having us here. It's a pleasure to share our story of how we came to create Benchmark Labs and how we help the environment.
Great. And Carlos is here because he's one of our featured speakers at the Ag Tech Symposium coming up in just a few short weeks. Hopefully, the link will be at the bottom of this video. So not only can you come hear about the wisdom and lessons learned from Carlos, but you'll be able to meet him because networking is part of what we do. So Carlos, let's take it back to the beginning. Obviously, you're interested in learning applications for a brighter future, and we're all about the future. We view agriculture and tech as one of those things which is going to help us get food security and reliability, sustainability, resilience, all those things. And we want to find out how Benchmark Labs is going to help. But take us back to the first time that you realized that you should be doing this. I mean, were you talking to your mom, your friend? Were you at a barbecue? Were you solving some huge problems? Take us back to that conversation. If you can think of one conversation where you're finally telling somebody, hey, this is what I'm passionate about. What was that conversation like, and who were you talking to?
No, that sounds great. And I had like multiple conversations, and I think that
Pick one of them. Pick one of
it was
them,
like,
because we have
it's like
time to go into all of them. I'm sure they're all great, but just give us some insight into a conversation. What was that like back in the beginning?
yes. So I will start from the beginning. Is that I'm originally from Colombia, and my mom worked 28 years in the National Federation of Coffee Growers, where we saw firsthand the effect of weather and climate into a very important crop for our economy. However, the National Weather Services were not accurate enough to provide a reliable and accurate forecast for the locations where the coffee is being grown. So that led to a passion of studying the water cycle. I did civil engineering, hydrology, hydroinformatics, then did a PhD in atmospheric sciences, and then ended up here in the United States understanding how the weather service creates their forecast, only to find out that the process is very similar all over the world and that there are, millions of users that are dissatisfied with the current state of the forecasting technologies. At that point, it became very clear that the need was global, and talking with end users that say, hey, Carlos, can you help me to get better weather forecast for my farm? I don't need the whole forecast for California. I don't need the whole forecast for the United States. Can you give me a forecast for my farm where I grow grapes, or where I have an interest on the lesser prairie chicken, for example? I remember that conversation once with somebody from Oklahoma, and the answer was, I would love to do it, but in the National Weather Services we don't have the capacity to do it. So
Okay,
we
well,
say, let's do it.
by the way, having a background in precision forecasting and a master's in meteorology is I understand what you're talking about. So the problem is we've got this great computing power to run these hugely complex, extensive models that give generic forecasts over wide areas. So when some say the forecast will be, Valerie Voss on the jet stream will go here and the temperature will be this way average over 24 hours, doesn't really cut it for your farm. So what was stopping this? When you looked at what was the biggest initial hurdle? Was it computing power? Was it sensor data? Was it trained forecasting? If you were to pick the one hurdle, which you knew once you got this passion that you had to overcome, what was the one biggest hurdle?
And I think that the problem is personalization, is that the National Weather Service and all over the world services and legacy providers, they are trying to serve everybody. So that lack of specialization of leads.
Well, so what was the challenge in getting that specialization? Was it forecasters? Was it
So
just setting up a forecasting uh, capability of people to do those person? Was it a people problem, a computer problem? What kind of a problem was it?
It's a mix of everything. It's a lack of observations. We know that, for example, the Southern Hemisphere is severely uninstrumented in comparison with North America and Europe. We know that the global oceans are like 70% of the world. However, there are very few instruments. So lack of instrumentation, lack of understanding your end user. Because the problem when you're a national weather service is that you have to serve everybody, mining, energy, national security, aviation. But those are like very different audiences. So what we decided is to focus on these owners that have an asset, a very valuable farm or land owners that are dissatisfied because the forecast is too coarse for them. We will not tell you in benchmark if you need an umbrella for your vacations in Bali or wherever you are. But we want to be the best forecast for specific locations instead of focusing on being the best forecast globally. So that is probably our key insight, understanding
Okay.
who
So
is our target person.
for those that don't know, various spots around the world sign up internationally to create observation, but they're widespread. There are airports, there are pilot reports. There's a few people that do it for fun and report it. So there is a reporting network, but it's not like every block or even every city. It's kind of widespread. And then these observations have to go into can get numbers crunched and things like that. So part of it is, can we get the sensors out there? So you're worried about that. Part of it is, can you get the understanding of the forecasters? And I will tell you once, I was having trouble forecasting a place. I went and viewed it, and I was on a ship, and the bow of the ship had a flag going this way, just flapping, and the stern of the ship had it going the completely opposite way. And I go,
Oh,
how do you forecast? How do you
what is
forecast
happening?
that way? The difference of weather from the front to the back of a ship, that's crazy. So we got this problem. So what did you decide to do when you put it in motion? What did you do to get started?
So that what's very important is to first talk with users. I think that sometimes the problem is that coming from technology, you could build a solution and they're trying to find out who is willing to use it or pay for it. We decided to go the other route, like understand that there were like already there was a big gap, a big need for these services. Let's say talk about wineries, orchards, think about California. As you mentioned, the changes or the microclimates are part of what the wine industry even connects to, is the value of what they call the terroir in France, which makes each specific land plot unique. Why the wine from winery A is different from winery B? Is because of the microclimates. So understanding them, and then we started testing, getting with pilots with wineries. We say like, I have an idea, I will refine the forecast and create them tailored to your location.
Yeah,
And
I used to laugh with two cities right next to each other arguing because one was closer to the river. And so they'd say, oh, their wine is terrible. It's got too much humidity. And they would say, oh, the reason our wine is so good is because we have more humidity. So,
exactly.
radically different wines, cities right next to each other. So when was the first time you thought, I have a success? You're
Oh,
doing this hard thing. It's not all coming together at once. It doesn't one day turn on the switch and there you go. What would you consider the time that you had a first big success? And what was that success and what was it like?
yeah. So I think that as a small company, you have to celebrate your successes, and because sometimes you are like focusing on the home
Let
run,
us an insight of what it was like.
and we
Give
have
us a feeling of what that success was and what it was like.
a great success was when one of our customers was interviewed by ABC News and mentioned that not only we help them to save 10% of water in California with our more accurate forecasts, but that also their agricultural yield improve between 50 to 100% in some cases. We were not expecting the yield because we don't do yield forecasting, but for them, improving yield was a byproduct of operating with higher efficiency because they didn't over-irrigate or under-irrigate. They knew when to apply pesticides, when to apply fertilizers. So that was a huge success for us and kept us going.
Must have been a great feeling. News. So let's talk about a big failure. You know,
Oh, big failures
you're
are
not gonna get there without having some good failures. When you're doing something different, it can't happen. What you consider give us an insight of what a big failure was like for you and how you
oh yeah,
overcame that,
yeah.
how you recovered from that.
It's part of the business of it's also timing, and we were fundraising just before the financial crisis. Uh, what I consider a big failure, like as a company, or like it was also that we trusted certain organizations that committed an investment to our company, an investor, for example, and then they pulled out the term sheet at the 11th hour when we were talking already, let's do a press release. And they told us we don't have the money actually. So, probably I think that now we have to look more carefully who actually is going to invest and that not all the money is created equal and that now we are, let's say, more cautious about who we invite to work with us.
Okay, second final question here. Let's say you can wave your magic wand in the next, 1 to 5 years, everything's going to go exactly the way you want it. How is the next 1 to 5 years going to be different than today? Give us a few specific examples, how you think with your technology and with what you could do, how the world could be different.
Thank you. Yeah, no, the next 5 years are going to be super exciting from our company growth perspective because now we have been working on our unit economics to be ready to scale globally. So we just signed our first contract in Europe, and we are testing our solutions in Latin America. So I foresee that we could be serving tens of thousands of locations globally in the next 5 years. And because we took care of our unit economics early as a company, that will allow us to scale in many different geographies that have a different purchase power. So it is very exciting to bring AI technologies, better water and conservation technologies to a developing world that sometimes they could be restricted in terms of the management strategies and resources that they use into their operations because it's been reserved traditionally to big companies in North America and Europe, for example. So I think that we could really make a difference.
Fantastic. Okay, let's jump to the last and most important question. If somebody wants to know more about you and what you do, where is the best place for them to find out?
Oh, thank you. Of course, they can go and contact us at benchmarklabs.com. And there is like a intake form. They can easily contact us or go to LinkedIn and send us a message. Follow us in Instagram, Twitter, social media. Send us a note. We have been receiving interest from, of course, users, but also interns that we are actively providing with new opportunities to help us to give the best options for career path development. We had interns before in the past with business development, machine learning, data engineering. So yeah, feel free to contact us and depending of like whatever area of interest.
Benchmarklabs.com, Benchmark Labs on LinkedIn, Benchmark
Yeah.
Labs on Instagram. Very good. Well, Carlos, thank you for being here. And everybody, I highly recommend you can attend the Ag Tech Symposium, either virtually. I recommend in person because you'll get a chance to actually meet Carlos in person with a great networking event along with that. So, Carlos, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Eric, and looking forward to the event. And see you, audience, there.